Yes, it is Wednesday, August 19th of 2026. We're going to start out with our committee meetings this night. We'll start out with our Streets and Drainage Committee, Mr. Kyle.
All right, thank you. This is a resolution 26R43. This is a change order, which is following up on our previous resolution we had for the paving program this year. Due to some changes or some late minute developments on Enbridge, they found that there's going to be some work done on some of the original roads we were going to pave. So we opted to pave those next year and select some different roads this year. That led to a change order. The original bid is based on quantities with set prices per quantity. Those new roads were broken down to develop the quantities, and that was how we came out with the change order. So we changed the name of the roads that we're going to pave, and then there's an addition to some of the quantities. The roads we're looking at paving, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Johns, Donner, Woodwood, and Pepperidge. Is that accurate? And the amount of the change order is $15,939.60. Any questions from anybody? Thomas? Mr. Kotz, are you okay with the list of roads and stuff? I know there was some question at the last meeting about the roads and everything.
Right, and I appreciate Mr. Allman reaching out to Mr. Hercules to set the record straight as far as what roads and what he read off is exactly correct. We had the question with the last one about section 1 where it says authorizes and directs the mayor to approve the change order. And the last one we took out and corrects. Is that something we want to leave in this time or take it out again?
Well, I think we're going to move forward with it now.
Well, I don't think it changes whether we move forward with it or not. It's just if something comes up, it doesn't, he's not locked into it like we talked about last time. It doesn't change whether he can do it or not.
I think we only removed it because of the change order.
There's the uncertainty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I believe so. Wasn't that why we removed that, Marshall? So that way, we knew the change order was coming, so we removed that to at least get him started.
Yeah, that was precisely why we removed it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, anybody have any issues waiving the three? All right, with that, I will close the Streets and Drainage Committee at 6:03.
Moving on to the Laws and Ordinance Committee, Mr. Wolf.
I'd like to open the Laws and Ordinance Committee at 6:03 p.m. We have ordinance 26003. It is an ordinance amending the New Franklin Consolidated Land Use Code and Zoning Map. So, there's so much here. And we have Fred. I don't know, Fred, do you have anything that you'd like to present or say? Or
Not really. I'm here to answer any questions, and maybe there were some questions at the public hearing that maybe I can try to clear up.
yeah, there was. I heard numerous. You said you'd get back. Do you have any of those, or do we? Do you recall the questions? Or?
Yeah, the question I think that the mayor sent you a sample letter to the property owners. There are right now, just on a not going into the computer, but looking at the digital computer with the parcels, there's about 56 to 60 properties that have the dual zoning. And just to remind you again is that what we had is years ago, probably in the early 2000s, the city created CD, this conservation district. And they created a conservation district basically for areas that were wetlands, floodplains, the heavily wooded areas. And so what they ended up doing was basically drawing it on a map. So it didn't look at necessarily look at parcel lines, and the old code didn't look at parcel lines in most cases. And so what happened was there were a number of properties, not a lot, that the CD zone went somewhere within the property, 50%, 20%, 70%. And so what we ended up doing was we ended up looking at those properties and trying to determine, what was the appropriate zoning. If it was mostly CD and everything around it was CD, we made it CD. If it was mostly R1 and everything near it was R1 and it was small, the property was under 5 acres, we probably made it R1, just to make it easy to interpret. And so it's really hard when you have 2 zoning districts on a parcel. It's for the property owner, what do I do, what the staff does, how do we treat setbacks, how do we, and so there's a lot of issues that you don't want to do that. And so, but the main reason was, if it met the qualifications size-wise and everything else for R1, less than 5 acres, we made it R1. Because if you have a property that's 2 acres, or even 1 acre, it's CD, then it's a non-conforming lot. So we tried not to do non-conforming. And then the question after council, there was the section that was in there was a question that Mr. Clussy, Mr. Powell had in the interpretations for the code. And there's one section that's typical in most codes. It says, in case where there are multiple zoning boundaries on a parcel, the more restrictive zoning district designations and requirements shall apply. And the reason why we have that in there, and we don't want to take that out, is because things could happen in the future that we're not sure. Somebody could buy 3 parcels, and 2 of them are R2, and one of them's R1. And they buy it, and then they consolidate it, and then you have multiple zoning lines. And so what this would say is that, okay, if you were trying to get around the regulations to get higher density, is more restrictive to do. So it would still be R1 and not R2. So that's why we have those things in there. And other issues come up that we may not know about. A lot of times parcels, they change, and we don't know until you look at the county. The county doesn't necessarily tell us. We have a record of lot splits. And what in the future with this new map, we'll be able to make those changes in real time. But sometimes things happen and the parcel are different than what we have in the map. So it's a protection thing. The other issue came up, and we intend to send those letters out to sample review. But what the code says also that any rezoning that is 10 lots or less, or 10 lots, or greater than 10 lots, you don't have to notify. That's Ohio Revised Code. It's actually, I looked it up, and it's the same in our code. We don't say a lot. It's Ohio Revised Code 713-12 requires mail notices when ordinance intends to rezone or redistrict 10 or fewer parcels. And so what that gets at is that if it's a typical rezoning, we have to notify. If it's over 10 parcels, we don't have to notify, but there has to be some type of public event, like what we're doing with the code or comprehensive plan. And so those are the reasons why we didn't do that, but we tried to be as appropriate as possible with these parcels, and that's what they were doing. And so, again, there were things that sort of say what we were doing, we even went a step further and we looked at those parcels and seen what was possible. So that gets to the question, but there's not a lot of parcels after I looked at it. We're going to set up a meeting with our part-time intern that's in the service department that does the GIS now. And we'll get an exact number of those parcels when we get it into the actual ArcView program. It'll tell us those parcels. I did a count just by looking at the map, the old map and the new map, and I counted 56 parcels. So.
And just to interject, not to interrupt you, Fred, I gave you guys a sample under what we want to send out, at least to notify, even if there's any that are, I would rather over-notify than not notify enough. And, I would even like to take it a step further after we get those notifications out. Maybe set up a workshop where they can come in, share their concerns if they have any as we work through this process, just to give them a voice in case they've missed out on some of the other public hearings that we've had. If we did it before a council meeting, whatever would suit you guys, but just to try to include everybody, especially the ones that would go through a change with that. I'd rather, I know what the ORC says as far as notifying, but I'd still at least give them a chance to be notified and be heard if they'd like to.
Thanks for the information, Fred. It's very helpful. One of my questions would be, so if we were to reclassify, rezone an R1 split CD property, does that take effect today when that, not today, but the minute it's rezoned? So somebody could be living in a property that they, know to be an R1. What would be some of the restrictions if they wanted to do some sort of improvement or something to their property that would be impacted by that change?
I mean, there really isn't any, there's still, setbacks are, there might be a setback issue potentially, but that was something we would look at, if they, in most of these cases, when I looked at the property, there were a number of really small lots that were non-conforming, that couldn't meet the R5 standards, starting with acreage. And then setbacks. Setbacks are really great on 5 acres. And so the R1 is rural residential. And so there are, there are less setbacks, things like that. So in most cases, it's not going to affect them, but there could be something that would be that. And also remember too is that, we talk about trying to keep the density as low as possible in some of these residential, is that when you have the R2, if you have 10 acres, for a CD, you can only have two, you can be subdivided one, so you have two houses, let's say. If it was R1 and it's 5 acres or 10 acres, it's double that. So it does increase the density when you take something to R1 and CD. And we try not to do that, but there are some cases it just made sense. And like I said, I'm not quite sure. I remember asking Barry when I first was doing the Valley Boston report, is how the CME came about. And I think he said that sometime, like I said, in the early 2000s, late 90s, maybe after the city, probably either when it became a city or a village, someone said, let's create this CD area that protects the land. It's a good idea. But since then, we also have impairment setbacks, we have floodplains, so a lot of that's being done anyway. But we kept the CD, because I question whether we needed the CD, because we had all these other things. But we kept the CD, and so just now, when we got into it, we had to adjust the boundaries because it was dual parcels.
As Mr. Powell asked, these zoning changes would take effect with this new code, with the ordinance.
Yes.
What if somebody, after receiving a letter, said, well, wait a minute, I don't want to change to that, I want to change to this. What's the process for that change to happen?
Well, if you want to change to another zone, not R1 or CG,
Well, the lot is split, and we made the decision that their lot was now going to be this. They get the letter, they look at it, and they say, well, I don't want it to be this, I want it to be that, I want it to be the other.
well, then we,
If it fits the requirements for that, if the lot fits the requirements for the other, it could go either way. What is the process then for them to say, change it to the other one? Is that a big deal?
right now, is that we would just go in, it's based on everybody, what we're doing, is just go ahead and change that parcel to R1, let's say, versus CD.
Even if the ordinance is approved,
No, afterwards, they have to go through a rezoning. This would be prior to the ordinance being approved. So if we send this, when we send this letter out, they get back to us and say, hey, we would rather have it R1 than CD.
right?
Then we would change to R1. The only issue that I would have is, let's say it's 20 acres and 5 of it is R1 and 15 of it is CD. is if they say, yes, I want to be R1, it's gonna take a big chunk of land and it will increase densities. That's the precaution here by doing this, is it's taking all, well, gee, I can get more density on my property now if it was R1. So that's the risk you take in doing this.
But I think in all fairness, I mean, people out here, they live out here forever. And there's a good chance that those people that now have a split lot had a single lot when they bought it. And the city came through and decided to make these changes and created this problem. And, my concern is with it changing it from R1 to a CD, as you mentioned, you start changing setbacks. And if they want to put a garage or something else, now that changes where they can't afford it.
If it's going from CD to R1, those setbacks are going to be less, so it should.
Right, but I thought the CD was more restrictive.
It is.
So,
you're
as
saying
you
now,
mentioned before,
yeah.
we're going to automatically make them more restrictive, and now we just limited what somebody can put on their property.
No, if this is done now, then that section I wrote to you won't be a split lot. We're going to make those changes prior to the code. That section I read to you in Article 1, procedures, that would be if something happens after the code is approved. So if we change these, we change something from CD to R1, or R1 to CD, it's changes made in that section I read to you would not, isn't permanent, because we've already made that change. So it's not doing something.
And so the problem I have with that is when you take somebody's property and you make it more restrictive from a value standpoint, you decrease the value of the property.
Right.
I think as council people and zoning people, we do not have the right to make their property more restrictive. And essentially, it costs them money.
Yeah.
So I commend the mayor and our legal counsel, Marshall, for getting this letter prepped so these people can come in and talk to us. But for you and the zoning people that were already no longer here just to willy-nilly make these decisions, we're going to change it and then fall back on a ROC code that says, oh, we don't have to do this unless it's more than 10 or less than, unless it's less than 10 people. It's ridiculous. The fact that the mayor and our legal counsel is going out and saying we need to be more open about this, they need to be commended for that.
Just Fred helped us create that letter, just saying.
But he also helped design making these properties more restrictive without seeking input from the people who own the properties. And it's not, I've been in real estate 30 years, you make a property more restrictive and tell me I can't do more things on it, you decrease the value of my property. Who takes the liability for that?
That's correct. I mean, it does make it because it's less dense. So a lot of these ORC things, you're going to see these in the codes, these standard things like the 10 lots, that's pretty standard. Every code I've looked at, my old codes used to have that. This code had it. So it's a standard thing. It's just the way. And then the other section, it's a normal thing. So there's a lot of things in the codes that are pretty standard because they come from the Highway Revised Code of what cities can do, townships have their sections in the Highway Revised Code. So a lot of these things come, and they're just put into the code. That's all. Sorry.
I'll have a question if I may. On kind of a different subject, but still on properties. Further down Manchester Road, we changed the property code from business to MU-1 historic. And as I was looking through that today, there are some places down there that have businesses there. So let's say I own a shop of some sort. I'm at retirement age. I decide that I'm going to sell my shop, close my business. It takes me a year to sell my building. Can I still sell it to somebody who's going to put the same type of business in there, or do I lose my grandfather?
Everything in the MS1 or MU1, and even the MS1, MU2, and MU3, everything you're doing today you can do in the new code.
But these particular places I looked at, one is a conditional zoning, and the other one is not currently allowed in MU1. So,
Well, you need to look at those things as we went through with the planning commission. In the new code, just again, conditional use permits did not go to city council. It was something that the commission did approve. In the new code, everything's a conditional use permit goes to the city council. So there's another step, another public hearing process. So what was the example for that, for, you know, the conditional use permit?
Body shop.
Body shop.
It's not currently permitted in the
And the reason why typically body shops, they tend to, neighboring properties sometimes do not like body shops because of paint smells, other work being done. And so by putting it through a conditional use permit is that it allows for some review of additional standards. And that's why you have a conditional use permit. It's allowed by rights, but now there's a conditional use tied to that property that would allow for not particularly that, hours, noise, things like that. And so in most cases, body shops, if there's conditional use permits, have those extra steps that they have to do. Now, if you go through that table, you could say, we don't really want body shops to have conditional use, but we can make it a permitted use. It's just, you need to go through that and make sure you're comfortable with those. But I would just say, my experience has been when you have things like body shops or paint shops, is that it tends to smell and things like that.
Some of these places have been there for decades.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't need a conditional use for that.
But, all right, so answer the question, if you would please. My building sits vacant for a year because I haven't sold it. Somebody comes in and says, I'm a new body guy, I want to go back in there and put a body shop. What steps does he have to take after a year? Is he automatically grandfathered in because that's what the building was set up for? Or does he have to jump through a bunch of hoops?
It really gets into, then you're getting into non-conformity, there's a non-conformity section. I'd have to look at that section and see what the limitations is. Typically, and I'm just thinking out loud, I haven't read this, I can get back to you on it. It typically is if you abandon a place and electricity turned off, all utilities are turned off, and it stays vacant, then it loses that conformity. And typically you see that in not so much conditional use permits. But if you have it on the market, it's been trying to sell, then it continues that conformity. So I guess in that case, the body shop, you retire, you try to sell it, and another body shop wants to go in it and it's been for sale, then they can continue that without changing, without losing its conformity. Conditional use permits run with the property.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes,
I mean, with respect to this particular question about the body shop, I will also look at the code, but we have an opportunity here. If we don't like our code, this is the time that we can change it. But traditionally on non-conforming uses, it is 1 year. So your example of 1 year really, actually you put it right on the knife's edge, right? So if it's 364 days, it's still okay because you were grandfathered in, and he's correct that it stops with the use. So once you stop using it, you see this a lot of times, it's actually just the opposite. You've got an agricultural use next to another, and the family farm gets passed along. I just did this, and it was, did the farm continue to be in use? And the question is whether there was some equipment there. So use is a big question. So and that's why it's kind of a nuanced answer. If the body shop still has all of the equipment in it, and there's people there that every once in a while will turn the lights on, I mean, you can still say that use is continued and you can keep kicking it out. The other option, why so we have not proved it here, is if you don't like that 1 year use, we can always extend the non-conforming use to 2 years, 5 years, however you would want to do that. But that's the non-conforming use question. Eventually, you want to, that's why we have the rules. On the flip side, if you establish a use and we change the code on you, you can continue to use that for your lifetime, and it will continue to run with the property, even if you sell it to the next guy. So in your example, if a young man comes along and wants to buy the body shop, and it's within 365 days of when the gentleman shut the lights off, he's okay. If he's beyond that period, he'll just have to come back. And this goes to Mr. Powell's question too. It's not like he's completely out of luck. You can come back and either ask for a variance or reapply for a conditional use on that. But in the example of I can't put my shed out here anymore because the setbacks have changed. And my expectation was that when I bought this property, I could put it right here. That is actually one of it's called the Duncan factors. I don't know if you've ever heard of that phrase. So when you are, this is something that our BZA, right, would normally run into. When they're considering a variance, there are a list of factors that's named after a lawsuit called the Duncan factors. One of them is whether what your expectation was when you bought the property. So you hit the nail on the head with respect to what what we're concerned about and what our people, what our residents are thinking. And the law does allow for somebody to get an exception or a variance if they come back in. And I don't want to prejudge every case because, heaven forbid, 6 years from now, the BZA doesn't grant a variance. But I would think that in a context like this, where we've changed the zoning code, in this example where you're going from half to a whole, that the BZA would be open to that. I can't think of a much better example of when a variance would be applicable.
I think the only other heartburn somebody would have on that is it $400 to do a variance?
I think when I saw one just recently,
I don't know.
the split, you talking about to rezone?
No, to a variance.
Oh, apply for 350, I think it was. It's
So we'd be charging them to get a variance when we changed it to the original expectation.
Well, I think, and that's what I just asked Marshall. I said, well, what if we just get rid of the CD district? And the scary part of that is, or not scary, I guess I should rephrase it. You talk about them that we don't, I feel like we lose control of the density, and then we could get into a situation where we have a lot of small lots, and if that's what they want to do, they'd have the right to do it. And again, I'm coming at the tail end of this thinking, how I would be looking at it, just as a resident,
That's what I was asking at the last meeting. Instead of opting to make it more restrictive, we opt to go more restrictive, while we opt to go less restrictive. Maybe if it's got two different classifications, toggle it back to the less restrictive, and we're not harming anybody.
At least on the affected properties you're talking
How many
about.
of those 56
56
properties are going to be more restricted?
I don't know if we should do the analysis on the 56. We can do the analysis on each of the 56 properties and come back and yes or no, like either more restrictive or less restrictive.
Well, I think we just
Good question.
ask for more time on this.
Yeah,
We said,
Absolutely.
well, I'm glad
Sorry,
we get these letters sent out with a date of return, the expectation of having it returned. And if there's anybody with any concerns, we're able to change it quickly without any big deal before we pass the thing. And if there are no concerns, then we can be comfortable going ahead and passing the ordinance and making those changes. But I think if we, like our concern was, let the property owners know. And I don't know if we need to put more in the letter or less in the letter as far as, this is what it means for you, for your particular property, or call us, or, whatever. We can go through what it exactly means. Give each person the opportunity. They don't need to come through council. We don't need to have a public hearing for it. It's just, this is what I prefer, and that's, okay.
I would rather over communicate it than let people know. And even, sorry to cut you off, Jim, even zoning administrator Hitchings, Fred and I speaking, and Mr. Hitchings said, hey, I'll even go out and individually talk to these people if necessary, just to make sure we're messaging them on top of the letter. So
I would appreciate that, because I don't know how many times I get something from my local municipality that I never know when it just hits the fan.
good
So
job.
anything you get from
I was going to say, I would like to add in the workshop date into the letter. Once you come up with it.
No, I mean,
Nice to
that
put
too.
that in there so they have that opportunity to come and talk to us and
So piggybacking on that, I know I had mentioned last meeting that I'd have a workshop. There's 6 sections in there essentially. And then it's one, they're oddly numbered. But what would work for you guys to have a date to have a workshop? You guys want to do a weekend morning? You want to do an evening? What do you guys think? What works best for you guys?
Either one's okay for me.
I'll be here whenever.
What's the purpose of the workshop?
To go through the code where we can all
Oh, I see.
discuss the code individually. It's not a requirement, but I
No.
think it'd be good.
Whenever.
Evenings for me, especially not Saturday, or not like weekend mornings, just because of everything else going on.
How late in the evening can you?
Anytime, but I probably would say evenings would work.
Okay, what night works best for everybody if we're doing evenings?
Monday through Thursday,
All right.
not Friday.
Whatever
What do you
suits
think?
You guys, I can make it.
Yeah, I'm flexible.
Yeah.
You guys
I'm
mind?
Monday through Thursday, I can adjust to that.
Thursday isn't bad for me, but Monday through Wednesday I can.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Mondays are typically best for me with football right now.
Yeah.
Monday's good.
They give 2 weeks notice on.
And then I would ask, and just Fred and I spoke about it too, if you guys do have questions or want to follow up, if you wouldn't mind submitting those, emailing me those over, I'll collect them and we'll try to work through those together. So we can kind of just keep chipping away at it and answer everything and try to continue to inch forward.
So I want to make sure this workshop is for us to deep dive into certain ones,
Right.
nothing to do with residents coming here and.
They're welcome to come and observe.
Yeah, but I'm saying the 56 that got the letter.
But we can do that in an actual meeting.
That's an actual
Yeah, we would just have it come during the meeting.
prior to.
Yeah.
And Mike and I can provide feedback too as we talk to the residents.
Okay.
Like, hey, John Smith, at such and such addresses would rather say R1 or whatever the case may
What's our
be.
time requirement for workshops? I didn't think it was 2 weeks, I thought it was less than that.
For notice?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 weeks.
That's for public hearing. When we do a workshop,
Workshops,
I thought it was just 3
You're looking
days.
at code, but the traditional rule is 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because it's just what we considered a special meeting,
What are you doing
just
tomorrow?
call it a special workshop.
So I know, is the 24th, does that work for everybody? That's the next Monday?
we just look at it.
What time?
So that time works for you guys.
It's 6.
Mike's open for you, Fred,
6,
24th,
6:30
good,
would be good.
I'm good.
Monday evening. Works for me.
Monday,
We'll just put that in the notice when we send it. when we
We're
send
gonna do
it over.
6 or 6:30.
And that probably will give us time to get out to,
Right.
Well, actually, yeah, let's not put that in notice, because we're just gonna talk about it informally.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Just
Just,
for the,
just,
next
correct.
Those are one of my questions, are, this is both really for Fred and the administration. Do we think that we're ready, we've identified the 56 lots, we have the addresses, and are they ready to go out? And if the answer is that it's yes, then I would ask council, what date do we want to offer them? How many different hearings do we anticipate?
I think we want, what I heard was before a
So I'm gonna
council
say
meeting,
it.
but not really on a special date. Is that
And
what?
I see,
Is what for
Lisa
residents?
agrees on this.
Do we need council to be involved? My thinking is, we send a letter out, and if we tell somebody, we're zoning your entire property B instead of B and C, and they come back and say, I'd rather it be C, I think we just make that change for them. It's their property. I don't think they need to come before council. I don't think we need to have any public hearing or
And
anything like
that's the
that.
feedback we'll get from
You
the
know,
mayor.
just, you know, if they have an objection to it and they want the other district that's already on their property, okay. I don't see where there
You
needs to
just
be.
want to make sure they understand the letter, or
Right.
like Kevin said, when
Right.
they open it. You need
Right.
some acknowledgement that, hey, I got this, I understand.
Well, like Kevin
So you
said,
feel like-
not that they didn't throw it in the trash, but I mean, we can only do so much.
Well, we'll be sure to follow up with
Sure.
them too. And I'm agreeing to, sorry to interrupt you, Greg. I mean, like Barry, I hesitate to tell people what they should do with their, you know, I don't want to restrict their property more than it already is.
6:30 Monday?
I just think if they say they want to do it this way, okay.
So I'm just,
And
I'm
workshops just for us to talk about it.
Right, but we're talking
What
about.
about if, what 95% of it was CB? And they knew that going in.
Right.
We're just saying, and it's a 15 acre, 20 acre lot. Now we're just gonna make all 20 acres because of that 5%.
They could have bought that property 30 years ago and it
There
wasn't.
wasn't anything? Okay, yeah,
That's my point.
Thank you. That's another
So, yeah, it could be 5% R1 and, 95% CD.
And now
When
it's,
they bought it, it could be
it
a
was
pass
me.
out. It was all out there, right. So that's my point there.
What's going
But
on?
as far as I don't know that we need you here, because I think what we're gonna do, and I appreciate you offering to, I think we're just gonna have our discussions internally, compile a list of concerns, questions, get that over to the mayor, and let the mayor get that over to you, and that way you can work on that, and instead of us just wasting your time asking stuff and.
First of all, you're not listening. But sometimes it's better, not that I want to do more meetings, is that if you have a question, it's easier for me to answer that question than going through the code. And so if you don't, you only got beer, I don't have to be here, but I probably should just answer the question, just in case that's up to you. There are two questions here that just came up. I think Clussy had a question about what was the what was the zone, what were things moving to CD or R1?
How many were affected? That'd be more effective.
I have to, when I look at this map, because I identified it, most of the properties are going from CD to an R1, or in some cases over 2, because it was just a sort of edge of the property that someone decided that it was near the river, the Tusk River, things like that they thought, oh, it should be, it's probably floodplain, wetlands, and it should be CD. And so in most cases, this is unscientific until we get the GIS, it's probably 60 to 70% of it was went from CD to R1, because that CD was created to protect certain areas more than density issues. And then the question you just had, it was went through me about the something else that had to do with
It said that somebody was 95% CD, and then we just automatically say, hey, it's cool, go R1. What are the ramifications of?
The ramifications are, if it was, it would just, would be a little bit higher density on that property.
Right, and what Kevin, Mr. Powell said was, maybe that person, that CD wasn't even in there, right, prior to when they purchased the property, we threw that on them also, I don't know.
Sometimes we had a property that was, came in for a variance, it was partially in the CD, it was Tom Zeller's property. And they didn't realize that there were two zoning districts on there, it was CD and R1, because that CD was created on there. And so we had to work through that issue. It was a planning commission, we had to work through what the setbacks were on that. So there could be a case where people don't even realize that they have this new zoning.
So that group, we don't know though, but that group may have just arbitrarily said this is CD without.
Yeah, I don't know how it was done.
Yeah.
And the Donzel property's so large that, it's,
Well, that's really a flood area through there. It has been for a long time. My property was in CD.
And you remember too, is that floodplains, riparian, if there's a subdivision or something, you can't really go in the floodplain. You could, but your insurance rates are low. And we're not going to let you go into a riparian either. So there are some restrictions in addition to the zoning. And the riparian probably, I thought it was probably created after the CD district.
I'm pretty confident that when we send these letters out and contact all these property owners, I'm pretty confident that one, maybe two might have an issue. Most people aren't going to have an issue, but as Mr. Schaefer has said, we need to give them that opportunity. Let them make that decision. We're looking at the workshop on Monday at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I just want to verify.
Okay, not 6:30, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Just want to go for the time to come up.
Okay, anything else, or can we table that till the workshops? Anything pressing while we have Mr. Barrera here? Any questions? Yeah, please.
Was there any more information about what seems to have been added in between the thing zoning, public hearing, and councils, the attached single families, adding 6 units.
That was added, I believe, prior to that. The only real change, I have to go through the code, the only real change was the data centers. Because at that planning commission public hearing, there were more questions on data centers. And so it made it more restrictive. But the 6 units, I believe that was changed prior to that.
It wasn't in the version that was given out for the public hearing.
Well, I can't, without looking at either comparing, I can't give you it. But if it was, then we added the 6 units in the mixed use, not in the R3 and the R rounds.
Okay, all right, I think we will,
Marshall has one question about the special meeting, but just to make sure we.
So for notice purposes, I don't know how we do in the past, until why we're talking about it. This is it'll be considered a special council meeting, but it'll be a workshop. I did look at our rules, it is a 24-hour notice. There are several different ways that the council can call a special meeting. One of them is the call of the mayor, which is the easiest as an administrative matter to handle. Like we don't have to vote on it, or we don't have to get 4 signatures or so on. So I don't know how we.
I've never advertised for a workshop, nor do I take minutes for a workshop.
I know Katie's put stuff out before.
You've had workshops
Yeah,
in the past.
Yeah, Katie put something out.
We just simply have to post it. Right? There's not necessarily any other than wherever we typically post our notices, like on our website or whatnot, and then there will be however we schedule any other special council meeting, whether it's a workshop or whether it's not. If there's a form that we use, that's what we should do. And if we don't have a form.
Is it going to be considered a workshop or a special meeting? Because there is a difference. A special meeting, then yes, there are minutes taken for that. If it's a workshop, then no.
It's just a workshop.
So it sounds to me as if it's a workshop amongst the 7 of them. With
No decisions will be made.
No decisions being made, therefore no minutes to file.
That's why I threw you out there, so.
Yeah, we should talk about that later.
Okay, Kevin, you've had prior workshops.
Katie just put something out that we were having a workshop, because I know we had people show up.
Okay, because I've not attended those. Okay,
I don't think you should have to attend them. I'm not suggesting that.
but I mean, it's just special meetings, I have to take minutes and it has to be,
If there's a council meeting.
yes, if it's a special meeting, a different day, that's different than having a workshop. So that's why I was just concerned how you're going to phrase that. Because if it's a special meeting, then yes, I need to be there. But if it's a workshop, no, it's amongst the 7 of them.
Well, we're not gonna make any decisions, this is more of getting our questions together to present, to get answers, so this could be just a workshop.
Yeah, we're just gonna compile a bunch of information to eventually forward over to the mayor to.
So I understand. I will need to look at our rules and whether or not, because we do have the ability as a charter community to opt out of the state rules and change the rules. But unless we have specifically a rule that says workshops, we don't need minutes or something to that effect, then it's still considered a public meeting. The public is permitted to attend, like you have, and we are required to provide notice. And we would have minutes, but you could do a recording. I don't think that the clerk has to be there. I don't think that's required for a workshop. It's just whether or not we have a process. But the law requires doesn't matter what we call it. If it's a meeting of more than a quorum of the members of council, it's a meeting.
We'll document what we're talking about, whether it's in a spreadsheet form or a recording, and that way we have record of the discussion and how it's brought up.
And it can be it can literally almost look like an agenda. It does not have to be, and I'm not suggesting that detailed minutes are required at all. I'm just saying that our notice requirements are required.
The public
And I
is
know-
allowed to attend, but they're not necessarily permitted to participate.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
They can observe.
Which is typically how workshops are handled.
Yeah, that's fine.
By council meetings, we allow public comment at workshops. We don't because it really is kind of a workshop discussion.
And I just wanna make sure we're doing it legally.
Right.
Exactly.
Not to throw you out there.
No.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right.
there's no meetings in here pre on Mondays, right?
No,
Okay.
no, nothing's on.
Make sure that is.
Yeah, no, you're good.
All right, this will conclude the Laws and Ordinance Committee meeting at 6:45 PM.
All right, we'll call to order our regular scheduled council meeting. Join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cox?
Here I am.
Mr. Schaefer?
Present.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Mr. Klusky?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Present. Question for Marshall, can I do the approval for the minutes for both together, or do they need to be separately since one is a public hearing and one is a council meeting?
They can be together.
All right, so that's, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the minutes from the public hearing on August 5th of 2026 and the regularly scheduled meeting of August 5th, 2026.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Klusky?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
All right, the next thing on the item is the approval for financials of July 2026, but those came out this morning, so I'm going to ask for time. Anybody got any? Okay, moving on, time for public comment. Please address your comments to the council and stand and state your name and address.
My name's Jerry Robb, husband Ted Robb, and we live at 6211 Burnout Drive. A few of you know why I'm here. My husband would have been here. He's under the weather. We have an issue in our backyard that is deteriorating our property. And I have pictures of when the trees for the park, before the pickleball courts went in, and I'm not opposed to the park. I play pickleball all the time. So I love the courts up there. I need help. I've been to a few other meetings. I have just been advised this is the meeting I need to be at. I would like to show you the pictures of before the trees came down and a picture of just a few days ago. I'm waiting for someone on a raft to come down through my yard because the ditch is now this deep. I could step over it before the trees. I can't anymore. I have to climb down in it and come up the other side. And it's not like it goes down just between two properties. It comes between our yard and the neighbor's yard, and it goes at an angle across our property. It is deteriorating the value of our property. It's dangerous. Somebody's gonna get hurt. The kids from the park come down through there. They jump it with their bicycles. The edges of it it's deteriorating. It's time to do something. We are trying to be very patient. I know you are just recently new into this, but we have been asking for years for help. We have been told it's a wet plain. I have contacted the Wilmington district in West Virginia, and I have names of people I have spoken to. It is not wetlands. We got a letter, and we were told previously we can't fix it. It's our property, and they're telling us we can't fix it. At that point, we were gonna fix it on our dime. That ship has sailed. Our dime is no longer available. I am asking you guys to fix it. You guys, the park has created this. We have 2 pipes. Now, if I go up that ditch and there's not 2 black culvert pipes, then it's natural runoff. But I go up the ditch, and where the ditch ends, there's 2 15-inch pipes dumping water in our yard from where the runoff comes from the park now. Now you're talking about putting a walking trail in that's gonna create more runoff into those same detention ponds. They're not retention ponds. If they were retention ponds, that water wouldn't have come through so fast. Before I leave, I would love for you guys to look at the video I have of the other day. Neighbor's yard is completely underwater, and we've got whitewater rapids coming down through our yard, through this ditch. I have done some research. I have one more thing to look at, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And then I will be 100% sure there was not an easement taken out for these 2 pipes to be run into my backyard, and there was not written consent or permission from the property owner. So if this last thing that I look into is what I think it is, what has been done is illegal up there. And I think it's time to change what has been done to our property. Again, it's deteriorating. Even if you pipe it in, our value of our property goes down because that land where that pipe goes through is non-usable for anything. You can't put a garden in, you can't build on it, you can't do anything. It's just grass that we mow. Right now, it's non-usable because it's a deep and wide ditch that water goes through. We've got a bunch of things here. See if I can remember. I would like to see if there was an easement, if you guys have it for the stormwater drainage. I don't think you do. I would like to see if the EPA approved those pipes to be put there. And I would like to see what the Summit County engineer has on that. And if I need to set up a time to come in to speak to you, Mr. Richter, I will. I mean,
Let me see if I can get those answers. for you.
I'm willing to work, we're being as very
No, you
patient
haven't, for
as
sure.
we can. But at some point, when somebody gets hurt, guess who's getting sued? Because it's our property. And you guys are telling me I can't make it right. I got a letter here from the previous mayor saying I cannot make it right. And that they will not help us. So like I said, it's time, and there is drainage infrastructure put in there because I looked into it and you guys put riprap and undercuts in there. That's all drainage infrastructure in the park. But you put no drainage infrastructure on my property where you're running the water. And you put a lot of money into those courts. And, you gotta come up with some money to fix what the courts have created. And again, I am not opposed to the walking trail. I am not opposed to the courts. I love having the park behind our house. I just don't like what has been created. So,
What is your address again, your house number?
6211 Purnell Drive. Our backyard basically ends into the courts.
Right.
And I know you guys have been out there walking, for the walking trail, observing and trying to take into account. Let me tell you one other thing that's going on because of these pipes that are draining through our yard. There's a gas line that goes between our house and our neighbor's house. It's supposed to be 3 feet underground, under surface. It's about this much. I could find it. I could take my hand and dig it up for you guys. And this has created that. That's a danger, and that's against the law. Because law says those high-pressure gas lines have to be 3 feet under surface dirt. So now we're talking a different story here, not just deteriorating our property.
Sure.
It's a huge hazard right now.
Mayor, is there a way we could get, maybe bring Mr. Noble in and get a few of us to go out there, Mr. Hercules yourself, and just kind of walk and look at the area? And
So I've talked to Mr. Noble about it, but Mr. Hercules, now obviously, Mr. Hercules and I weren't here when that was put in, and I don't know if that was done properly or with the easements or it was just ran, so I'm gonna.
There's no
dig into
easements
that.
out there. I've done some pretty deep digging, and like I said, there's only one other place for me to look. And I think if it was there, it would have already popped up on what I've looked into.
And Mr. Corley and I have been out there, we've set eyes on it when that's
It's
happened.
worse now.
Yeah, I
It's
figure
worse.
with all these rains we've had,
Yeah.
it's been even worse and.
I have an elderly neighbor, and he has a young kid across the street mow for him because he can't do it anymore. That kid's gonna end up in that ditch with a mower on top of him. So, and I try and keep him away from it. I try and mow it myself, but how long am I gonna be able to do it?
yeah, if we could get something put together, I'd be more than happy to attend as well.
Kevin's came up with some suggestions, it's just working through the logistics of it, we'd have to engineer it and figure that out. And when it comes to all the other things, was it properly signed off on, where, you know what I mean, going through the EPA, when you put Well, Director Pitchford and I have quite the agenda tomorrow. He's coming down, but maybe we'll start looking into that tomorrow from a legal side of things.
Yeah, and again, I don't I don't want to be that person, but I just feel like the can keeps getting kicked down the road. It's been years.
No, I've
We've been
put
asking-
eyes on it.
Yeah.
I've seen.
Well, I know, and you're new to this whole thing, but again, we've been trying to get help for a lot of years, and it's just getting worse.
But yeah, Kevin, I'd be more than happy to get there and see it and see if it's properly done in the first place.
Because he was
Check soil too, see if they
What,
have
I
wrong
spoke
with
twice,
some
it's on the mayor's
Yes,
desk for his
yeah.
signature, and they just.
It has deteriorated, definitely, yes.
She's been to several parks meetings, I've talked to them, they've been on the workshop before, we spoke about this. I remember in the past that there was a squabble amongst the city and the school about whose fault this was. And that was between the school and the city.
Jerry, I probably asked for that letter you received. Oh,
That's
okay.
exactly what it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I can make a copy of that
I'm
too.
pretty sure that,
Yeah.
I know I'm unaware of any letter.
I can't hear you.
I said, I'm unaware of any letter that the previous mayor sent to you.
Well, he was supposed to sign it,
That's why I was just asking.
but it came to, I was told twice that it was on the mayor's desk waiting for a signature, and it appears, in my mail, or however it came in. I think I had to get me, and had to sign for it.
Certified this one.
Yeah, and he never signed it. Partially due to because he was good friends with my husband, and I don't think he wanted in that squabble. He wanted to distance himself because there was limited time that he was in that seat. That's my personal opinion.
What's the date of that letter?
Looks like it's the postage stamp is ironically August 19th, 2022.
There we are.
We're going to go exactly.
So the drainage is tapped straight into the creek that runs next to your house?
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
If you get in the ditch and you walk, all of a sudden it ends, so it's not natural. There's a pipe coming this way and a pipe coming this way.
There's also a resident on Manchester Road that feels some of the water problems when they got good rain. Probably starts it there and makes it all the way down to Manchester Road. And he comes over to my shop quite a bit too and talks to me about it. He's been told he's been talking to it since Bolus was in.
Here's this one.
So wait.
Run from last time.
Way before pickleball court, it's when the
That's-
soccer fields were first put up. It's awesome.
Coming under the road. So no, that shit goes under the road. It comes up this way.
This first I heard of it.
I may have it that way, right? Let me see it.
Yes.
I would like, before I leave though, I would like to show you a couple pictures and video.
Why don't you show those to us now, because we're
I
going
got-
to go into
I got-
executive session and we can't
Okay,
adjourn here and go into,
He's got-
talk to the public before we go into
okay,
executive
I'll
session.
just do it from my phone. Okay, this is what it looks like now. And if you look, that's the drain pipe that goes under the road right there. It should be 30 inches or plus, it's about this big now. That's between the two
I've
properties.
been listening to you, you probably see how I felt.
Yeah, I did.
I was wanting.
That's a current one.
Yeah.
That's why I've been hesitant to talk much about the trail till we resolve this issue going forward.
I would like to show you one picture, and it hasn't turned and gone in between our properties yet. Let me see if I can. That is through my backyard.
And there was no water like that previously?
I'll show you what was there previously. I'm trying to hurry. That was previous, that one, and that one. Okay?
And that was in 22?
Yep. This was previous,
So that's when this
is it still there?
Yeah.
Okay, previous.
So that's when you first started noticing the problem.
The problem was there before, but it, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And let me get,
So there was a problem at that time.
And that's when we tried to get help. Here's what we have now. That's between the two properties. Can I see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
It's a long one, too.
Yeah.
And
You
I
haven't
can,
even
I
seen-
can contact former Mayor Anderson about it, but it looks
You
like.
haven't even seen what it's doing to my neighbor's
Right,
yard.
from our
He's
deputy
leaking
service
water
director,
from that
actually.
water running down from the park to his property.
Wow.
When it gets around the corner.
Like it's a big-
You looked at your grass, there's an easement, it'll be on your deed.
That was the one thing I was gonna do today and to,
So you can
Surgery.
say, oh, I see it.
yeah, look at the neighbor's yard.
That's a little bit.
We had to do easement from the gas.
I'll get an easement for the drainage deal process.
Right, but I was gonna do that probably tomorrow, but like I said, that was the one thing I needed to do
You should be able
today.
to put it in really easy on the site.
Okay. It wasn't there then,
It won't be on TV.
it wasn't there.
No.
Yeah, I exhausted everything I could do on
It's
the
been
computer.
not on the deed. It would be its own separate document.
So it would be filed with the deed.
Am I-
All right.
Or
It would be in her
Anyone else?
title search when she purchased the property. Do you have your owner's policy?
Probably, I don't, somewhere.
Look on your owner's policy. There should be an easement, it will reference the document.
Well, there should be something with, filed with Summit County also.
Correct,
Correct.
correct, but it will not be on your warranty.
Okay. We didn't get a warranty deed, it was what access, the house.
Is that the limited warranty?
I don't know,
Or-
it was too long ago,
Did you get title insurance?
it was too long ago, I don't remember.
they
I'm sorry.
never had that title search, so they may not be.
If you had a title search, it would show an easement.
Okay,
But if it was purchased as is, a lot of times they don't
You
do
didn't
that.
obtain title insurance, and there would be no, you would not have an owner's policy.
I'd have to look when I get home at the
But
paper.
it's county would have resident does.
Yeah, Summit
Yeah,
County.
You could look at
Yeah,
Summit
that
County.
was gonna be that was the one thing I haven't done, is physically go down to Summit County downtown Akron. That was hopefully tomorrow.
Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll, go to, resolution 26R-43, Mr. Powell.
I will read them.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly.
A resolution approving a change order to the City of New Franklin 2026 paving project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This resolution was assigned to the Streets and Drainage Committee. As we discussed in our workshop, committee meetings earlier, this is a change order to a previously bid contract that, due to some changes in the roads we're going to pave, they recalculated the quantities. The change order amounts to the difference of $15,939.60. Anybody have any problems waiving the three? Do I have a motion to waive the three?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Klusky?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to accept resolution 26R43?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Klusky?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond? I'm sorry. Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Resolution 26R-43 passes 6-0. Moving on to ordinance number 26O-03.
An ordinance amending the New Franklin Consolidated Land Use Code and zoning map.
This was brought before the Laws and Ordinance Committee. We'd like to ask for more time.
Time is requested, time is granted. We have no more readings tonight. We'll move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. The Route 93 sewer project is winding down and heading towards completion, finally. I am happy to report that the easement issue that I touched on last meeting, to tie in the new lines to the county sewer, is very close to being wrapped up. I want to thank the county, our service department, Law Director Pitchford and everybody else who, including the property owners, we've been stressing the urgency of the matter. And in doing that, we're still optimistic that the underground work can still be completed in time for North Star to include that small section of Route 93 in the resurfacing project. Worst case, we would have had to go back and hit that spot later after it was completed. We're really trying to rush that thing through to capture it all. So I'll keep you posted on that. I want to extend a special thank you to Highway Distributing, the old Manchester tool there, for helping out with the parking situation while the work in the easement is being done. Just a great example, small community neighbor helping another neighboring business to help keep everyone open during this short-term inconvenience. We have the pre-construction meeting for the repaving of Route 93 next Thursday, I believe, to hopefully get that roadway fixed and less jittery as soon as possible. I wanted to thank Enbridge Gas Ohio for letting us know New Franklin was nominated to receive a grant in the amount of $10,000 to our fire department. Enbridge shared with us that they are focused on supporting municipalities that help build safe, vibrant, and sustainable communities across their service areas, and our fire department was nominated by their local committee to receive the grant. Chief Leslie is handling the submission process and shared with me that they have a significant need for a utility terrain vehicle to better serve the public. This will enable us to purchase this valuable piece of equipment, which will enhance our ability to respond more effectively to the needs of our community. Lumos T-Mobile, that's been a popular subject the last few months. They've gotten back to working in limited areas of our community with fewer problems than we have had at the beginning due to better communication and working in the permitted area. We'll continue to share and communicate with our residents as their work progresses in the different areas they've gone to. Like at my house, they put out the yard darts and things multiple times, actually, letting us know they're going to be there working. We were informed that the Waterline development plans to break ground sometime next month. They are planning on announcing that groundbreaking date. I will continue to keep you informed as the plans, dates, and info are relayed to us at City Hall here. Lastly, just want to thank all of you who were able to attend our annual Lakeside Barbecue on August 6th. We had a larger turnout than in the last couple of years and appreciate every attendee and sponsor who took the time to attend and contribute to one of our biggest fundraising events. Thankfully, the rain held off. We were able to kick back and have some fun on a beautiful evening at the new conservatory with the lake in the background. I just want to thank Tim Canner and his team at the Tudor House, Katie Smith, Chris Lippincott, Karen Hood Morello. Did I say that right? Did I get all the names? Okay. From our office for working it, setting it up, breaking it down, and also Teddy Roth for providing the entertainment.
You noticed the last name.
Didn't know you were going to be here. We have one more, and his lovely girlfriend to help me pull the numbers on the raffle ticket. So,
Ariana.
We have one more music night on September 1st, and then our Lakeside Oktoberfest on October 11th. That's all I have. I see there's farmers market products up there.
I did. I bought some of the farmers market products, and I did buy them last week. But the produce and earrings, I bought my earrings at the farmers market.
Seems like the crowds have been pretty good over there.
They have been. They really have been very good, and the produce is delicious. Terry and I will tell you, I think we both are filled with cantaloupe. Am I right? The cantaloupe was fabulous. And Rob Phil lives know how he likes the watermelon, right, Rob?
Yes.
That has his name on it. You can't see it, it's very tiny down here.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. I guess no finance report tonight. Our finance director is off. We'll move to new business. Excuse me, we'll move to old business. The old business.
Speaking of the gas lines being replaced, we passed a resolution ordinance or something last year, I think, about removing the old pipes. When they put new pipes in, they have to remove the old ones. Can we make sure that Enbridge is aware of that and will be?
So, full transparency, we led with that to Enbridge during the project. Now, they didn't say it, they didn't say okay like we would like. So in fact, I just included Marshall and Seth from his office to how do we ensure that happens? Because soon after the Twinsburg home explosion, we made the news later that week for a gas strike out here on Manchester Road, and the issue there was the line was marked, but it was the old line that had been abandoned, and the new line was unmarked. So we're trying to use that example to express why it's so important to remove that old infrastructure to avoid potentially somebody getting hurt or killed. So we're working to stress that. I know sometimes utilities feel they are above, I don't want to say it incorrectly, but we're just going to continue to keep stressing how important it is to move that infrastructure. Sorry, I should have shut up a little bit. My true feelings are starting to sleep through, I apologize. But yeah, it is important to have that done.
Any other old business? New business?
Okay, so let's talk data centers. That just kind of, in a way. We typically, and all of our resolutions and ordinances come out as an emergency. And we've had citizens ask about it all the time. Why does everything have to be an emergency? There was a situation in Pickaway County, I believe, where data centers are going to be put in. And they struck a deal with one of the townships there with the officials, and they kind of rushed through the process there and passed an ordinance and then called it an emergency, some citizens said, we don't like that, and they put together a petition, a referendum about it. The fiscal officer, who I guess in their community is responsible for it, denied the petition to go on to the ballot because it was passed as an emergency. They took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, what emergency? Really that means nothing. But there is a question of whether it's an administrative thing, which would not be used for a referendum. You couldn't do a referendum on an administrative thing. And so the Supreme Court told them that they had to accept the petition, send them on to the Board of Elections for that county, and then that county had to decide whether it's an administrative procedure or not. The reason I'm bringing this up, again, we use it on every ordinance resolution, and we use it out of habit. We use it as a matter of convenience. There are times where it's needed, basic stuff like when we're transferring money from the general fund to the police fund, it just makes sense to make it, all right, we're doing it, no need to wait. Again, for everybody, the emergency declaration only affects when it goes into effect. So if it's an emergency, if there's an emergency on it and we pass it with enough votes, it goes into effect as soon as the mayor signs it. If we don't have the emergency on there, or we don't have enough votes for the emergency clause, then it goes into effect in 30 days. I think we should probably start looking at limiting how often we call a resolution or ordinance an emergency. Instead of just doing it out of habit or convenience, I think if it needs to be an emergency, it needs to be stated why. Whoever is the sponsor of that resolution or ordinance, if they feel it needs to be an emergency situation, it needs to be stated within that, and here's the reasons why. Otherwise, it should just be an ordinance and take effect in 30 days. Again, many things that we do are just, we do it all the time, and it makes sense to make it an emergency that it takes effect right away. But my thought is that maybe we should look at how we're handling that, and maybe we should be a little more careful with that. Also, with the waiving the 3 readings. Again, we do that all the time. And I think we're very good about not doing it when when we really shouldn't, because we want to get more input from citizens or possibly give them the opportunity. And again, we have regular things like the transfer money from the general fund to the police fund, that we can waive the 3 readings on. But I think I'd like to see us to go at least 2 readings on most things. If it's not going to affect anything, go to at least a 2nd reading. Some communities I know as their habit is to go 3 readings on pretty much everything. Take about pretty much everything 3 readings. I don't know that we need to do that for everything. Again, I think we do a good job of deciding when, we should take it to 3 readings, like the ordinance we have on the agenda today. So I think I'd like to get your input, y'all's input. What do you think? Does going to at least 2 readings for a lot of what we do make sense? And does removing the emergency part of most resolutions make sense?
So ironically enough, over 4 years ago when I got on council, I had that same discussion. And I didn't have much support on that. I pushed back on emergency language numerous times. I got away with getting a few resolutions passed about it. But I kept being told that this is for the better of the community. I disagreed with it. I'm glad to see somebody else is finally on the same page with that.
Well, I thought 4-year wait would be long enough for me to take credit.
Whatever it takes, fine. And to touch on your waiving the 3 reads, there's another community that I may be familiar with. They do a consent agenda, and that's things that you can pass pretty much on 1 read, non-confrontational, operational emergency type stuff. Not necessarily a call to emergency, but things that you don't need to stretch out for the 6-week period to get the 3 reads on it. And if there's something on that consent agenda that you have concern with, you can pull it and actually run it through the 3 reads. So that may be a compromise to what you're suggesting, or it's something like this change order. We want to get this done so we get the paving done before the winter terms. That's something we leave on consent agenda. Something about buying a vehicle or something down the road, we can go 3 reads or whatever that is. So I'm supportive of what you're suggesting.
I agree with you. I think it's a good idea. I thought it was a good idea when you had it too. But I do think it's a good idea. Is there anyone else?
So would it be like, change the council rules? Is there a charter?
No, it's just how they put stuff together. So when you look at these resolutions, at the end it says any kind of emergency, you just wouldn't see that on there. And
So you're removing that altogether?
I was told 4 years ago, everybody else does it. Well, no, not everybody else does it, but the people we were looking at did it, and that's what everybody is.
I'm just concerned that we don't have an issue today.
No.
But down the road, if something comes up and the emergency is part of it, and we don't have a leg to stand on because we do it with everything. And I think if that our resolutions should not include the emergency clause unless it needs to. And if it needs to, then there needs to be a reason why it needs to.
So once again, is this, what do we do, shake hands on it, or is there written rules, or?
No, you don't see it on the
Okay.
resolutions anymore. And typically, if it's something that's gonna change cost, if the contract's expiring, if it, the finance thing, that is automatically, you can do those they implement immediately. So it's things that are very time sensitive that we may not have
Sure.
control over.
Sure.
Those are the things you can do the emergency language on and have a valid leg to stand
Right.
on. Just doing it, just so you don't have to read it 3 times and clean up the agenda, is not an emergency.
And I think if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, not too much, but didn't we change a couple after you suggested
We
that?
did.
And then it went right
And
back
then
to
it
the
went
same
right back,
way.
and-
Maybe a little bit the same way with Enbridge not marking the old pipes. Sometimes you try to make the change, but it's not strong enough and you really don't get it. And someone just has to kind of kick you a little bit and say, hey, this is really important.
Well, let's keep it straight and not confuse things. When it's when the emergency wordage is on the resolution, it doesn't affect how many readings it goes to. It only affects when the resolution goes into effect after the mayor signs it, whether it's immediately or 30 days. So whether it has the emergency thing on it doesn't dictate whether it's 3 readings, 1 reading, or 2 readings.
Right, and then the second part of that was if we just did like a consent agenda.
Right.
That could be just perceived that we're just gonna read it one time if nobody has an issue with it. If somebody has a comment, concern, Absolutely, do 3 reads on it.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So we're good with this group, right? Like, you don't, Jim, you don't have a problem with us here, but it's for future
Right.
council.
Right, I just,
How does they have
How
that
do you
problem there?
enforce that in future council if we don't?
Ask them to take it off when it comes in front of you.
Okay, so
Which
do
we
I,
should
do I have
do
a
at
council
times.
person have that
Yeah.
power to say, take
What-
that off?
Yeah, one of the examples I can think of was, Chief Leslie was wanting some sort of a new alert system for the fire department. And they wanted to do an emergency and waive the 3 readings on it. I'm like, well, what's the emergency?
Right.
There really wasn't one, because we're buying the software, they've already got a system, it's not like the system they have isn't gonna work.
Right.
They just wanted to get it down, they didn't want to wait for 3 days.
Right, well, and that's it, if it's going to be an emergency, if someone wants to put an emergency wordage on it, there needs to be an explanation also.
Okay, so for just not to throw anybody under the bus, that particular issue, who decided to put emergency on that? Would it be the mayor? Is it a council
That
person?
paper came through the mayor.
Okay.
So, I mean, and typically that's what we see the resolution sponsored, the mayor's office drafts them.
So when we see that when it comes out on Friday, when she sends it, we say it's unacceptable, we don't
I think
want
it's
it.
just a conversation we have, but we don't want to see it unless it's a true
Trying to
emergency.
figure out.
But it's going to be a conversation and also with whoever in the administrative office actually types up the resolution and stuff, and remembering not to put that on there unless specified to do that. What do you two over there think, because you're more involved in it than us, yapping back and forth to each other?
I have no issue with it whatsoever. I'm comfortable with that. I know that language is always off-putting a little bit, and any community it's in, whether it's Summit County's council meetings, they put it on stuff, But no, whether it's, we just have to walk and run on that as far as Kelly or Chris, making sure we communicate it well and make sure we have it on there and, kind of work through them at first, then we'll probably get it into routine.
Yeah.
Marshall?
Any thoughts?
Nope, my only, I was aware of that Ohio Supreme Court case. It's, right up my alley, and you were talking about it, and I leaned over to the mayor and told him where it was. It's very, the problem that you're raising is very prevalent, and it happens, I have this conversation twice a year, right, with my clients. It comes up all the time. That case was very interesting. I read it several times. It's impacting legislation that I wrote today, because and we decided not to do an emergency clause, because the case reaffirmed the principle that you have to specifically, and the general rule is you have to put it in a separate section, and we do that, right? It's the last section typically, and you're not allowed to just slap it the boilerplate. Typically, we don't. But sometimes if we're, for example, doing a paving project, and we need to move forward, and we put in the sentence, well, due to, during good weather. Legally, that's okay. We would actually win that challenge if we said due to weather, because it was July, right? We want to get it done before the end of the year. But it's still a policy question. And I don't have a position one way or the other. I would throw a flag if I thought it wasn't an emergency. And I haven't seen that yet here, but it is a very good conversation to have. And it makes a lot of sense because it makes you as representatives of the public, more transparent and more accountable. It gives everybody an opportunity, except for when it's genuinely an emergency. And frankly, that helps me out because there's not a chance then that we're going to be hauled into court for that. As to the consent agenda that was suggested, that is a one way of handling it. You would say, what do we have to do? Shake hands. If we're going to do a consent agenda, we would actually want to put that in our rules. And we would put, just say there's a consent agenda and it will be for administrative matters. Like, recently we talked about moving money from the general fund to the fire department or whatever. That's what consent agendas are for. And essentially what happens is you list all of the legislation that's on the consent agenda and then you suspend the rules once. Right? So you still have to read the title. You still have to suspend the rules at least once, but you don't have to do it 3 times. If there's 3, you don't have to do it once. But there is most communities, most cities that I know do have consent agendas. But I haven't seen a whole lot of legislation here, right? I mean, these other communities, Akron, and so they have page-long, agendas. We don't have that. So I don't know that we need a consent agenda. It's a good idea. If we want to do it, then we get to change our rules.
Okay, cool.
Good
High five all around. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other new business? Well, I guess I will wish our Dragon Boat team good luck. They are off to France on Sunday. Most of them will be gone for 10 days, and we'll see how they do when they get back. So wish them well and safe travels. There's no more new business. We'll move to public question and answers.
Mr. Fetterman like to say something? I see him sitting back there.
Just a quiet observer.
All right, seeing none, I'll announce our next council meeting is going to be September 2nd of 2026. And then our law director gave me some good language for this executive session. I move to enter into an executive session pursuant to New Franklin Codified Ordinance 30.02 F1 and 5 to consider the employment of a public employee and matters that require to be kept confidential by law. And we're going to invite all of council, the mayor, law director, and HR. Yes, if I can have it back. No, actually, I still have an email copy.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll go into executive.
Should be a motion.
I made a motion.
And I need a second.
We have to do by roll call.
And then,
Judy, second.
second, Judy did the second. Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Cluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Watt?
Yes.